I was not anticipating asking this question, but now you started to talk about Chinese rise to prominence, wealth, individual wealth, wealth at the level of the nation. Uh, and comparing it to what we see with Britain now, a highly indebted country at a national level, and individuals who certainly don't save as much as they used to, whereas they did in the past. And you spoke about the mercantile class and the wealth of England going back a long way, which you've written extensively about. Do you subscribe to that notion that Ibn Khaldun put forward, the Asabiyya cycle, the strong men create good times, or should I say, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. Do you think that if you were to compare the West, which is fraying at the edges with regards to its public finances, you could perhaps argue with regards to its morality, its ability to carry out decisive political maneuvers, and then you compare the Chinese, who have up until very recently had hard times of their own and now are looking rather imperious. Do you think that that's what's going on here, that you've got the cycles, the civilizational cycles going on, and one day the Chinese, once they've had their decadence, they may well end up falling into that same cycle? Or do you think it's all a bump?
Well, you've asked about 10 questions then.
You're a professor emeritus at Cambridge. You can definitely handle 10 questions on the go.
I can, but only one at a time, and I have to remember which ones I'm answering. Let's take the last one, falling into decadence. I don't think the Chinese, from my reading, will fall into decadence. This kind of drive to succeed and to be secure doesn't tend to decline, as far as I can see, in particular individuals or particular families. The wealthy people I know in China go on. They don't rest on their laurels, so to speak. And I think as a civilization, that'll be the case. So that there will not be this kind of cycle. The Ibn Khaldun wonderful three-stage theory, perhaps one can put it more in the kind of metaphor or the description he gave, which was based on what he'd observed in North Africa, which was that you have people living in cities who are fairly decadent and just observing, interested in money and small things. And around them are all these ferocious, martial people who are highly moral and energetic and vigilant and so on. And these, the wolves around the cities, come in and destroy these decadent people in the city. That's the first stage. Then they come in, and then the second stage is that they gradually become themselves decadent. And then the third stage is another lot come down and do the same thing. So this is the three cycle. It was put in a much longer time scale by some of the great theorists of the early 20th century, people like Spencer and Toynbee and others, who wrote great works examining history. And of course, if you examine history over a long period, it's almost impossible that any civilization won't become decadent. I mean, it was the central theme of Gibbon's great work on the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, that basically the Romans lost their martial vigor and the rest of it, and the Roman Empire collapsed. And no doubt if you examined all the other great empires, the same sort of thing happened. But one interesting thing about China, which confirms my idea that they won't go through this cycle, is that they're the only empire that hasn't collapsed. there are four great civilizations. I should have said any civilization that hasn't collapsed. There are four great civilizations which started some 6,000 years ago or 7,000 years ago across the planet about the same time. Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Middle East, the Indus Valley, and the Yellow River Valley. All these started at the same time, and they all went, all three of them went through this cycle. They succumbed to the barbarians at the gate and are no more. I mean, just the remains of their civilizations are there. The Chinese started, and they're still there. And they're basically not much changed in now. For example, their writing system is exactly the same. Their Taoist philosophy is the same. Their character, as far as I can see, is not much changed. Their mode of agriculture is much the same. So they survive and survive and survive. And they tame the barbarians, which is another interesting thing, something that Calderon hadn't seen. But what happens in China, because it's such a vast civilization, is that the barbarians come in, most famously the Mongols, and then the Manchus, and then the Westerners, which is happening now. And for a while, they rampage across and kill a lot of people and set up their own rulers and so on. And then they become Han. So it's the barbarians become not decadent, but Chinese, which is what is roughly happening now. The West has rampaged across China for the last 2 generations, changing its laws, changing its politics a little bit, completely changing its economics a lot, changing its family systems, its love marriages, its culture, its education, medicine. Everything has been hugely modified by Western, but it hasn't destroyed China. And I think the rollback is beginning to occur when they can start to change us a bit more, because we haven't been paying attention at all to what they're like.